In this lesson, let's start getting some actual HTML on the page, and then we'll start styling it with Tailwind CSS. I'll start by creating a components directory to hold a dedicated component for our Trello board. Inside of the components directory, I'll create a new file called TrelloBoard.view. Now, inside of this file, let's create a template section, and I could go ahead and start creating the HTML here and then manually coding out some different columns in order to get our structure. But since we're in Vue, it's a lot easier to just go ahead and create those columns inside of JavaScript. So let's do that up here in the script setup section. And I'll create a variable here called columns. The value for this will be a reactive reference that will be an array of all the columns that we want to start out with. Now, notice that I didn't have to import ref here. If I was not in Nuxt, in order for ref to be available, I'd have to import it from Vue, like this. But this is just one of those niceties I was talking about when it comes to working in Nuxt. Ref and all the other composition functions that Vue provides are automatically injected for us. Now, these columns here should be an array of objects that look like the columns that we scaffolded out in our types file. So, like this right here. To keep us on our toes and make sure it actually looks like this, let me import this interface from our types file and then tell our code that this should be an array of those column interfaces. So I'll do that by first adding the lang equals ts attribute here to the script setup tag. This just lets Vue know that this is going to include TypeScript. Now let's import the type of column from our types file. Excellent. To tell Vue that this particular ref is going to be an array of columns, we provide some angle brackets here. This is called a generic in TypeScript. And then we pass it an argument. That is what we want the ref to be. That is an array of columns. Perfect. Now we can start defining some columns inside our array. This first object here, notice as soon as I add it, it will include these red squiggly lines. This just lets me know that we're missing particular properties on this object. So I'll start by adding the ID. And this will be a unique ID that will be generated by Nanoid. Okay, so I'll go ahead and call Nanoid there and then import Nanoid from Nanoid. Perfect. Notice I still have the red squiggly lines. Let me also provide the title. And I believe the first one inside of that Trello board that we were looking at in the beginning video was titled Create Marketing Landing Page. And we are still red here. That's because we're missing one more thing. What is it? Well, I can hit Control Spacebar here, and the IntelliSense box will pop up. And at the very top, you can see with this little special box icon here that the last thing that I'm missing is the tasks property. Okay, this is just one other really nice part about working with TypeScript. This is what I mean when I say it keeps you on your toes and makes sure you're providing everything that's needed. Okay, so I'll just choose tasks and I'll set it to an empty array. Excellent. Now my red squiggly lines disappear and I have my first column available. Now, what is a column without some tasks? So let's add in those tasks here. Okay, I just realized that the title of this column shouldn't be Create Marketing Landing Page. That was actually the title of the first task, right? So let me just remove that. And we'll say backlog here instead. And then down here, we'll give this first task an ID of a randomly generated ID, the title of that Create Marketing Landing Page, and then the last thing we needed was a created at date. Once again, notice TypeScript auto-completing that for me. This is great. All right, and that'll be a new date. Perfect. All right, so now we have a single backlog column with a single task in it, and I think you get the idea. Let me just go ahead and copy and paste in some other columns and tasks to get things going here. Now we have a backlog column with 3 tasks in it, just like in the opening video, and we have 3 more columns that are just empty. With that data in place, we can now start scaffolding out the HTML. So I'll create a div down here in my template, and then I'll create another div that I want to loop over each of the columns. And this is where we'll print out the information for each of the columns. Now, V4 should always include a key. So I'll add in there, and we've conveniently got a nice unique ID for each column. So that can easily be the key here. Great. Now let's provide a header for each column where we can print out the column title. And then for now, we'll create a dedicated component for each of the tasks a little bit later. But for now, let's just loop over the task and print out a p tag for each of them. And once again, we have a unique ID for each of the tasks that we can use for the key. Excellent. And the information we want to show on the page is the task title. All right, I think this gets us a pretty good start. Now, over on the right-hand side, you do still see the Nuxt welcome page. That's because we haven't used this Trello board component in app.vue yet. So I'll open up that file, and then let's replace Nuxt welcome with Trello board. Great. So now on the right-hand side, we have the backlog column. Underneath that, we have 3 tasks: the Create Marketing Landing Page task, Develop Cool New Feature, and Fix Page Nav. Then following that, we have the other columns. So this is a good start, but obviously not quite what we're going for. We don't want these stacked all vertically like this. Instead, we want them horizontally in columns, right? Awesome. So this is where Tailwind CSS is going to help us out. And we'll start implementing that in the next lesson.